either WGCV 620 AM, its staff or management, or our parent company, Glory Communications Incorporated.
Good God! I got to ask you what we need. Soul food. Henry Soul Food. No, we need it. Soul Food. Henry Soul Food. No, I like it. Soul Food. Henry Soul Food. No, we need it. Soul Food. Henry Soul Food. Hit me.
Home of the sweet potato pie. Even the keenest taste buds will tell you the best food on the planet. Large enough to serve you and small enough to know you. So get the Henrys at 5431 Indian Head Highway, Oxon Hill, Maryland, or give us a call at 301-749-6856.
Soul food. Henry Soul Food. What we need. Soul food. Henry Soul Food.
Welcome to the Armstrong Williams Show, brought to you by Golden Crust Bakery, the fastest growing Caribbean-owned franchise in the United States. Golden Crust is committed to the delivery of quality food and excellent customer service. Visit them today at goldencrustbakery.com. Hey, boy, let me tell you something. There's some crazy stuff going on in the world. Hello, everybody. I'm Armstrong Williams. This is beginning to make sense. I was the confused one. And wait a minute. Hey, Maxie, how you doing?
I'm doing great, Armstrong. I hope you are too.
Oh, you don't want to know how good I'm doing. You might get jealous. Something I'm not going to tell you. You might even get just jealous and get downright envy if I tell you how good I'm doing today.
Way to go.
What's going on, Michael Cutler?
How are you? It's always great to join you, Armstrong, and I'm glad you're doing well. If anybody deserves it, it's you. What do you think of that?
Well, you know what? Any of us can have some good days, and when we have them, why not celebrate them?
I couldn't agree more. Every good day is a gift, don't you think?
Yep, Max, let me tell you something. When you've had the kind of days I've had, when you've had a day like this, you want to tell somebody.
Way to go.
Boy, you sound like a rooster crowing today, Armstrong.
Listen, I've had one of the most challenging and surprising days I've had in a long time. It has not stopped. When I was about to go live, something else has dropped on my plate. But you know what? I am thankful for those challenges. I am thankful for the opportunity to learn more about myself and what I'm capable of. You know, Max, why would we run away from challenges when that is how we grow?
Well, you know, I think when you're young, you run away from challenges because you get nervous. But as you get older, you start to see that if you face the challenge, you know, you gain some power, some strength. And that's kind of the way you learn.
Boy, Michael, I tell you, this immigration has been a challenge for you, boy. You certainly have had to reinvent yourself.
Yeah, you know, and it's interesting. I've been involved with this. Can you believe I've been involved with this issue for almost 42 years?
Wow.
I started working for the old INS way back in 1971 as an inspector at the Kennedy International Airport. Became an agent in 1975. And back then, if someone would have told me that our alleged leaders, and I do mean alleged leaders in Washington, would do what they're now trying to do, I would tell these folks that they were drunk, that they better check what's in their food or go get checked out at a mental ward.
Mm.
You know, what's so confusing to me and upsetting to me, a couple of things. Oh, by the way, I saw you in Dennis Lynch's film. You know, we're both in it, Armstrong.
And I saw you, my friend.
Great job, but that's not a shocker.
I saw you, my friend. I said a star has been reborn.
you know, what these politicians are losing sight of, and the only issue I would take with Dennis.
You know, but
is there
before
was
we
much
get,
focus on the border.
wait a minute. Before we get into the business,
Sure.
let's just slow it down.
Okay.
Can we just lighten the load for a moment? You know, I think one of the, you know, we come on these airways and we get so serious about the dialogue, and we just need to breathe sometimes, Maxie.
Yes, we do.
I think you're right, Armstrong. You know, I think we get caught up in this crazy stuff, and it gets to us after a while, doesn't it?
Yes, okay. We need to slow down. Maxie, tell us about, you were just away, right?
Yes, I'm still away. I've been traveling.
Is it a secret?
Well, no, I've just been doing a few things, nothing too secret, getting ready for summer and visiting my children, that type of thing.
And what has that been like?
It's been wonderful. I've had a great time. I celebrated a friend's 50th, and then I went up and saw my son in school, and now I'm back and getting ready to go on another trip with my mom and my 2 kids and, you know, getting ready for the summer.
Would you say that your life is blessed, it's special?
Yes, for sure. I wake up every day and realize how blessed I am.
And Michael, how was your day?
My day's going well, and it's all the better for being on your program. I have to tell you, it's a kick being on the air with you.
Well, but you're not telling me anything. Maxie told me about her family and traveling. I mean, tell me, give me some substance.
Well, we've got a couple of my kids have their birthdays coming up. My second oldest just had his 27th birthday, if you could imagine. The 26th birthday, if you could imagine that.
Wow.
My son, my oldest, is going to have his 29th birthday, which freaks me out because, you know, I'd been a single parent. His mom died when he was an infant, and I still remember him as this little rug rat climbing around under the table. He's now taller than I am. And our daughter is about to turn that magical 21 in a couple of days.
Wow.
So, yeah, and our youngest is actually 16. So we have a full plate, and it's all about the kids, isn't it? When you're a parent, it should always be about your children.
It should. What is it that you still learn and appreciate about being a mother, Maxie?
You know, I think being a mother is a challenge every day because you have to, you know, put in perspective what's happening around you. You've got to look at all these things like those women that were kidnapped for 10 years. You got to look at people who are imprisoned, things, you know, drugs, alcohol, trying to get your children to the age of 21 and praying everything works out. And you really just have to keep, plus their education and everything else. And you've got to really think about how it is, you know, each day that you can give back to them and be the best mother you can be. And it's not always easy.
And Michael, for you?
Well, you know, my first wife died when she was 33. I don't want to be a downer. She had cancer. In fact, I'm a cancer survivor as well. But I remember she told me that I would have the privilege of watching our son grow up. And it was one of the hardest conversations of my entire life. And she's right. It is a privilege. In fact, he did well. He's an engineer. He's a mechanical engineer. But it is a privilege when you have children and you see them live their dreams. And when they do well, you can sit back and have a sense of achievement, you know. We don't always do it always right. There's no instruction manual that comes with being a mom or a dad. But you give it your best honest shot, and then you hope and pray for the best. I mean, isn't that kind of how it works out?
Yes, definitely.
You know, I tell you, I think if we were to get back to the bedrock of society, which is family, so much of life and so much of our society would get better. Why is it that we don't understand that simple fact, Maxie?
Well, you know, I don't know, Armstrong. That's a really big question, but I think, you know, family is what raises you, and family can mean a lot of things to a lot of people. But I know that if I didn't have my direct family, my mother especially, my stepfather, you know, I would be less of a person each day when I woke up. And friends as well. Friends are important.
Well, that is family.
Yep, they are. They are. The older you get. Yep, the older you get.
You know,
I second that one. Absolute sure. You know, I lost my parents back in college, so I had to depend on friends at that point because I really had no nuclear family when I was 21. And friends do play a very important role in our lives. And as my mom and dad used to teach me, and I can always hear their words in my ear when I'm looking for ideas or advice or comfort. I was, you know, finishing. I was in the middle of college when they died. But they said to me, "You show me the person's friends, and I will tell you who they are." Don't you think?
Yes, I do.
I think that the friends we make and the friends that we select speak volumes about us.
I agree.
You know, I think it's the friends that you keep for a long time speaks volumes about you.
Yes. Not the transitory ones, because, you know, it's a matter of, you know, weeding them out. Who's a keeper and who isn't? And that process, I think, is what defines us.
Yep, I agree.
And you know what? Talk about the fact. I mean, I saw a young man. I was working out, and, you know, he always comes to me for advice, and he said, you know, Mr. Williams, you have so much wisdom. You help me. And basically what he's asking me, I think it's such common sense. Then I asked the young man how old he was, and he said 23. And, you know, he said something to me recently that just blew me away. He said, man, I just wish somehow or another we got into what we wish for. He said, I just wish I had a father to kick my butt, to discipline me, to show me that I was doing wrong, and kept me accountable. I just did not have that kind of father, and I'm paying such a huge price for it now. I said, wow.
But, you know, Armstrong, how many people do you know? How many people do you know? And the people out there, how many people do you know who will, with a straight face, tell you that they've got a 15-year-old and they're trying to be that child's best friend? Is that really what that 15-year-old needs?
No.
What do they need?
Right?
I want to talk about why that discipline is so important. Maxie.
Yeah, I think I just had this conversation with one of my best friends. I think that, you know, my children are teenagers, and you look out and you see some of your friends' children or people you know's children who are acting out. Teenage years are so critical to show your children that you're there to direct them. You're there to help them, but help them make better choices and the right choices. Because if you are only their friend as a teenager, that's not going to work out very well in the future.
It's not going to work out that way, and it's not going to work out because they need to be told no. I remember one time my son, who could be really rambunctious, my oldest, and he still is, by the way.
Hold that point. We're coming back to it. Hold that point.
More gray hair.
Hold it. We're coming back. Don't go away. Maxie and Michael Cutler. We'll be back.
Armstrong Williams returns in a moment.
Say bye-bye burgers, pass on the pizza, forget the francs. Anytime is party time. Discover Golden Crust's authentic Jamaican-style patties. Beef, chicken, vegetables, soya, spinach, and shrimp. Feast on our great taste sensations. Jerk chicken, oxtail, sliced fish, and much more. Savor the taste of the Caribbean. Only at a Golden Crust near you. A family tradition since 1949. GoldenCrustBakery.com.
For more information on the Armstrong Williams Show, please visit our new website at www.rightsidewire.com. There you can find his syndicated column archive, view live streams, and get your favorite conservative pundits' views on the current issues affecting the American people. From building wealth to foreign policy, stay connected with Armstrong Williams and his colleagues at the all-new www.rightsidewire.com.
Hi, this is Armstrong Williams. What does it mean to be conservative? Freedom of speech, freedom of free enterprise, freedom of assembly, less government, less taxes. As a matter of fact, a flat tax. Everyone should pay proportional tax. It doesn't matter whether you make $100 million or $10,000. Everyone should pay their 10%. Everyone should have something at stake in this American economy. I'm Armstrong Williams, expressing what we mean by conservative traditional value.
Does your school, team, church, or charity need a new fundraiser? Do you need to work out of your home or part-time? Are you a small business that can use an additional revenue stream? Then you need Yellow Llama. Do you need affordable web services or tools to enhance your existing business? Are you a graphic artist who wants to create a revenue stream with your art but not get ripped off? Then go to www.yellowllama.com.
America must change course if we hope to survive and save the American dream for our children and grandchildren. How do we fix Social Security and Medicare? How do we cut government spending? How do we reform healthcare? How do we simplify the tax code? The Heritage Foundation has a bold plan that tackles these tough problems using common sense solutions that leave partisan politics on the sidelines. Find out how we can save the American dream at savingthedream.org, paid for by the Heritage Foundation.
Hi, this is Armstrong Williams with an opportunity to own a piece of paradise in Nassau, Bahamas. Spectacular land prices, 8,000 square feet, 20,000 square feet lot, affordable prices, hilltop properties with views of the magnificent sea. Just call 242-677-3120 or 3121 or go to info@rightsidewire.com and leave your information.
Where heads of state, sports, entertainment, and political celebrities meet. You're listening to Armstrong Williams.
So you're talking about your rambunctious son. Continue, Michael.
Yes, and he had gotten to me, and if you're a parent, you know how you have that moment when you think, gee whiz, I wish I had a teleportation machine and either send me or him someplace else far away. And I got so angry, and I said to him, you know what, I don't care what you do. Do anything you want, just leave me alone. How many times have we said that to our kids?
A lot.
And his eyes welled up with tears. He must have been about 5 years old. And he said, Daddy, don't you love me?
Oh, wow.
Now think about it. A 5-year-old equating my setting limits with loving him. Interesting, isn't it?
Oh, wow. My goodness. Wow, that's strong.
But think about it. Because he understands that the role of the parent is to sometimes say no. My pop, may he rest in peace. And you know what? If I'm half the father and half the man that he was, I'm okay. Said to me, better you should cry now than I should have to cry later. How's that for a statement?
That's true.
What are your thoughts, Armstrong? Am I getting it wrong?
No, listen. Love is discipline. But you know what? In New York, you could go to jail for yelling at your kid, Maxie.
I can't even imagine that.
Can you imagine that craziness?
No.
But look who we have for a mayor. Goodness gracious. Here's the guy that's worried about salt and sugar and butter and women breastfeeding their children, won't say a word about the drug epidemic that's destroying lives and really is the root cause of so much of the violence and loss of life. We're living in a fantasy world with alleged leaders who wouldn't know reality if someone put it in a basket and handed it to them.
Yep, very true.
And what we're saying here, that everything that's wrong with society is not necessarily the children or the parents' fault. We've dumbed down the role of parents.
Society. Look at the value system that we have. Look at the emphasis on sports and trivia, almost to the utter neglect of education and intellectual achievement. I don't care what anyone says. Nerds rock. What do you think of that statement?
Oh, yeah.
We should be pushing intellectual achievement and decency and honesty and integrity. Where do you see that?
Where do you see it?
Well, I don't know. I see it a lot, I have to say. I feel that, I see it every day, and I try to see it in all the people that I'm with. I try to see it each day when I get up and just open the door and start my day. I think you got to look for it, and you got to try to promote it.
I agree with you, but do the news programs promote it? If it bleeds, it leads. The more horrible the story, the more violent the crime, the more attention that it gets. If it bleeds, it leads, right?
Yep. It's hard to live in a negative world, and find your way to the positive. But I think that's kind of what we've got to do. We've got to try to highlight, you're right, we've got to try to highlight the good.
But if a child has parents or doesn't have parents, so he or she is left to their own devices and they turn on the TV or they go to their Xbox and they play Halo or some other violent game, Grand Theft Auto, and there's no one there to give them a mid-course correction and say, hey, you're kind of going in the wrong direction.
Yeah.
What values will they then start to think are the right values for an adult? Adults aren't brilliant automatically because they put age on the odometer. Hopefully they acquire wisdom with time and life and so forth. But if there's no one there giving them guidance, and they just look at the pop culture of America, what kind of a moral compass does that provide?
No compass.
Right.
You know what? Is there any secret that society is just so upside down, backwards?
Well, we're certainly devolving, aren't we? How do we fix that, Armstrong?
You know what? By people being parents. I mean, you have to forget about the government. If you love your child, you're going to make sure you give your child the best household, the best experience that a parent can give. Forget about the government. You know what works.
I couldn't agree with you more. Look, how many parents will say to you, well, my kids don't know that much because they're doing a lousy job in school. Well, they do a lousy job in most schools, although I will say my youngest son has a form of autism. He has Asperger's, and his teachers are role models for anybody in the educational profession. But most teachers are lousy these days, or at least a good percentage. I would say most, but a good percentage of them are. But where is the parent? Does the education stop when the kid walks out of that school, or does it first begin when they walk into their home?
Maxie?
You know, what I want to know is with Michael is Michael, I think you said you lost your parents when you were young. What was your changing point, though, the thing that caused you to see that, to cross that, threshold or that watershed that made you realize that you were important as a, good citizen in society?
Well, that was, it was inculcated into me from the day that I have my first memories of my parents. My mom died of breast cancer when I was 21. My dad died when I was 19 of lung cancer.
Wow.
My mother was an immigrant, came here from Poland ahead of the Holocaust. I was named for my grandmother who perished in the Holocaust. We're Jewish. But my parents hammered it into my head. You're going to go to college. I was 5 years old. We'd sit at the dinner table. My mother would say, you're going to college. Here was a woman with a 4th grade education. My dad had an 8th grade education. One of the most painful things for me was they never saw me graduate from college. I wish they had been there. But they said to me, you're going to college. I didn't even know what college was. For all I knew, it was an amusement park. But by the time I was 5, I knew that when I got older, I was heading to college. I was told that education empowered you. It provided opportunities for you, and it would enrich your life. And they told me that I could achieve anything I wanted to if I was willing to set goals, work hard, be diligent and honest and conscientious. So when they died, it was a horrific loss. I'll be honest, I miss them to this day. There are days I still don't sleep properly. But they really empowered me to understand that I was the master of my own fate.
That's a great thing. That did a good service for you.
Well, as I said, if I'm half the parent they were, my kids will be okay because they were phenomenal parents.
And you know what? It's unfortunate that all children can't say that. They don't have that testimony. And a lot of children have children, and that goes on for so long until they never realized what it was to be an adult. They never had a chance to grow up. They had babies. They had irresponsibility. They were irresponsible. They had abusive boyfriends. They had abusive environments. They were exposed to drugs. They were exposed to the worst kind of life. And this is the kind of life that they pass on to their children, and they begin to believe that this is what life is about, and it's not.
Well, I agree with you wholeheartedly. You know, when I was an agent, there were days we would get up, we used to call it dark 30. You'd be rolling at 2:30 in the morning, going to the staging area, so at 6 a.m. we could execute search and arrest warrants. And I always equated being up early in the morning with my dad because he was a construction worker and he'd be out of the house by 5 a.m. So it was kind of weird, but I'd be in my government car, perhaps with lights and sirens going, heading to a staging area, but in my own mind, so to speak, it almost felt as though he was sitting in that car with me because and to this day, I equate prior to sunrise being my dad's time of the day, if that makes any sense to you.
Makes all the sense in the world.
What your parents do and don't do has a powerful influence on us for the balance of our lives, doesn't it?
Yes. But I have to say, I have to add in that for me, my experience is a different one, but it wasn't until my mid-20s when I was getting a master's in social work when I realized that the government was the problem and that everybody else was going to help me. And by that I mean the churches, and I mean all churches, not one religion, the little people that had their things going on, a lot of times the wealthy people that just decided to quietly have a food bank, et cetera, small donations here and there, nothing to do with the government. And that was my watershed or my crescendo, the thing that changed my life was when I had to recognize that, and I had to get the job done inside of a master's degree at a university. I had to go outside of the government, and I had to start getting the food, getting the clothes, et cetera, et cetera. And that's the way, that was kind of my changing point or my turning point with becoming a better person.
You sound like my mother, who used to say to me, God helps those who help themselves.
Yeah, it really is true.
But you know, but I want to make one point that I think we have to, and by the way, you know, I'm not a conservative. I know you are, but first and foremost, we're all Americans, and that's something that we've got to get back to. Not looking at people that we may disagree with on issues as being our adversaries, but simply as fellow Americans exercising their thoughts. You know, the First Amendment's not just about freedom of speech, press, and religion, but about the right for peaceable assemblage, because the Founding Fathers understood the huge significance of debate and discourse. There are services the government has to render and should do a better job, but the American people don't keep the government accountable, and that's how we've gotten into this mess also. You know, I always, and Armstrong knows when I write my commentaries, and I'll give out my websites a little later on, but at the end of my commentaries, I always say democracy is not a spectator sport. People really need to be involved in their government. Don't just see government as your adversary. See it as a necessary part of our lives, but make it accountable and effective. Would you disagree with me, Maxine?
No, I would totally agree with you. And I think, you know, a lot of people, I think Olympia Snow just wrote a book saying, you know, how she was inside of Congress and the things she was doing, and then now that she's outside of it, the interviewers were saying, various people that have interviewed her said, hey, well, why didn't you say these things when you were there? She said, I tried, I wanted to be, but, you know, you don't always get your voice heard because of all the red tape, because of all
Not red tape, I'll tell you what it is. I know some members of Congress who I think are phenomenal, and I'm going to tell you who I'll give you a couple of heroes to my thinking on Capitol Hill. There's not many. You have to look far and wide to find them. Congressman Lou Barletta, Hazleton, Pennsylvania. I worked with Lou when he was the mayor of Hazleton, tried to push back against foreign gangs in his community who were killing people and selling drugs to kids, got sued by the ACLU. I was his last witness. He's now a member of Congress. How easy do you think it is for him to get...
Hold there. We're coming back, Max. Hold there. Maxie, Michael Cutler. Don't worry. We'll be right back. Don't go away.
Armstrong Williams returns in a moment.
For more information on the Armstrong Williams Show, please visit our new website at www.rightsidewire.com. There you can find his syndicated column archive, view live streams, and get your favorite conservative pundits' views on the current issues affecting the American people. From building wealth to foreign policy, stay connected with Armstrong Williams and his colleagues at the all-new www.rightsidewire.com.
Life is full of unexpected changes. Everyone has potential to do wrong. And when they choose to do it, contact the Bucksell Group for your private investigation needs. TheBucksellGroup.com or by phone at 202-243-9746. Whether there's an instance of a cheating spouse, child custody, process service, or security, don't continue suspecting. Get closure so that you can move on with your life. Visit TheBucksellGroup.com now or call 202-243-9746. If you think it's happening, it probably is.
To travelers along the road of life who have fallen asleep at the wheel, to the many who woke up in time to avert disaster and get back on the righteous path. For the ones who crashed and survived and now adhere vigilantly to a virtuous and righteous path. Finally, Armstrong Williams' much-anticipated new book, Reawakening Virtues, gives his insights into these daily challenges and much more. Reawakening Virtues is available in bookstores and at Amazon.com.
Join the millions of Americans who pursue one of our country's finest traditions, from hunting to sport shooting. Since 1871, the NRA has grown as a service organization involved in all aspects of shooting sports and is a proud defender of the Bill of Rights. Join today to begin taking advantage of exclusive membership offers and discounts, including up to $25,000 in insurance coverage. Contact the NRA today. Call 1-800-672-3888 or visit nra.org.
Most Americans simply have never been taught the basics of money management, let alone how to secure their financial future. But there is hope. Financial Education and Literacy Advisors, also known as FELA, does what others don't. FELA teaches financial education. If you'd like more information about providing a financial wellness program for your employees, or a credit-bearing college course in personal finance, or other valuable programs, please visit myfela.com. That's myfela.com, or send an email to info@myfela.com.
Elder Chicks is an exciting part of the fastest growing segment of the population. Women in their 70s, 80s, and older who are mastering the art of a senior life. We're no longer unseen and unheard. We're providing role models for each other and the baby boomers who are fast approaching retirement. Join our virtual community. Hit www.elderchicks.com on your computer keyboard.
Where heads of state, sports, entertainment, and political celebrities meet. You're listening to Armstrong Williams.
Maxie, Michael Cutler. So, Michael, where we are with this immigration debate?
Well, it's just astonishing. And to bounce a little bit off of what you had to say in the film, and what I had to say in the film. And by the way, let me just put the websites out there because I'll get caught up in our conversation and I'll forget to do it. So if you folks want to check out what I've been writing, grab your pen. MichaelCutler.net is one word, MichaelCutler.net. I also have another website where I have videos of interviews such as with Lou Barletta. Talkborder.com, one word. Finally, I'm a senior fellow with a great organization in California, Californians for Population Stabilization, and their website is capsweb.org, C-A-P-S, capsweb.org. I'm watching this push for amnesty. I am watching the way that the immigration system is in a state of shambles. You look at the Tsarnaev brothers, who blew up a bomb at the Boston Marathon, engaged police in a shootout, killed a police officer in cold blood. These were individuals who got political asylum and obviously or apparently lied on their applications, because to get political asylum, you have to articulate credible fear. Well, if you have a credible fear of going back to Russia, why did they go back to Russia right after they got lawful status? And, I'm very sympathetic about political asylum. I was a B'nai B'rith president when I was back in high school and college. We petitioned the White House to get President Johnson way back when, to get the Russians to let Jews and other minorities out of Russia so they could come to America and elsewhere and be free. And it was a delight for me as an inspector to admit them. But the system has no integrity. And this is the system that they would put to use to process millions of people who can't prove who they are. The Washington Times just said something that blew me away, and I had predicted it would happen. The so-called DREAM Act, this deferred action cases, that in fact today there's a hearing in Ohio for driver's licenses for aliens who have been processed for deferred action, and I provided them with testimony. Why in the world are we giving people identity documents without even a face-to-face interview? It's not about children. They're being disingenuous. If it was about children, they would say, okay, if you find out you're an illegal alien, you're in high school, you're in college, come down to immigration, we'll work with you. I wouldn't have a problem with it. I think a lot of people would not. But they're saying you could be up to 31 years of age and then claim you came here as a child without a face-to-face interview, with no ability to knock on doors. What prevents someone from lying, as did the Tsarnaev brothers, as did the students who were admitted that tried to cover the Tsarnaev brothers' tracks, as did this Tunisian, you saw what's going in Canada, where they were going to blow up a train on the U.S.-Canadian border. It's not just about Mexico. And Schumer and the other 7 gangsters, as I've come to call them, know all this. And they don't care. Jeff Flake said, well, now we're going to have to track people entering and leaving the country. Do you know we've already spent well over $1 billion to develop U.S. Visit, which was supposed to do that? It was one of the requirements of the 9/11 Commission, to which I gave testimony. And now Flake is saying, well, we're going to finally do this? Well, why haven't we done it in the years since 1996, when the immigration law changed and it was required, when the 9/11 Commission required it? Because they don't care. They are doing the math. This is about pumping tons of cheap labor into America, customers for products. It's the Chamber of Commerce that's at the heart of it. And if you look at the scandal with Apple right now and the fact that they're not paying taxes, that they offshored their big parts of their company, that's what they're doing with immigration. That's why they say we need to bring in foreign engineers and foreign scientists, It's not that we don't have the talent. Americans went to the moon, darn it, over 40 years ago. It's about maximizing profit and destroying America. Just to use a quick analogy, because, I like using analogies, these people are a cancer because cancers have an insatiable appetite for nutrients. Cancerous tumors even grow their own network of blood vessels so it can bathe itself in nutrients and ultimately starve out healthy tissue. And cancer does well until the patient dies.
Let me give Maxie a chance to respond.
Folks are going to do real well until America dies, and they are killing the country and America's middle class and the American dream for Americans.
Maxie,
Am I stating that too strongly?
Maxie,
folks?
how do you respond to what you hear?
Well, I don't know a lot about this issue, obviously, as much as Mr. Cutler does, but I would ask Mr. Cutler, my response would be, why is it that our government or whomever, the Immigration Department, et cetera, the INS, why is it that they spend so much time tracking the law-abiding citizens and they have yet to track these criminals?
Because it's about creating illusion. It's the theater of the absurd. Look, why in the world are we strip-searching 85-year-old women getting on airplanes? Do you really think she's about to overpower the flight crew?
I know. You tell me. I don't get it. Doesn't make sense.
No, well, I do get it. It's just like the virtual fence. I just did my most recent congressional hearing. I think we're up to about 16 congressional hearings, and I provided written testimony to still other hearings. When I was on Lou Dobbs, back when they were touting this virtual fence, Lou Dobbs, that Lou Dobbs voice asked me, what in the world is going on? I said, well, Lou, the virtual fence will do what it's supposed to do. Cost billions of dollars and stop virtually nobody. It's about creating illusions so the politicians can go back to their constituents and say to them, I just voted for $1 billion to be spent on a fence on the border. And the average American hears that and says, wow, this guy's doing the right thing. No, he's not. It's like the painter who comes to your house and spends day after day brushing your walls, and then you realize he's got an empty paint can, but he's been billing you by the hour. This is about creating theater because the folks making the campaign contributions and who are promising blocks of votes will be satisfied. It starts with campaign finance. Always follow the money. Look at the Chamber of Commerce. They have coerced the government into adding more and more countries to the list of visa waiver countries. As the citizens of 37 countries today can enter the United States without first applying for a visa. Now think how dangerous that is. But they're doing it to satisfy the Chamber of Commerce. And if folks want to read about it, go to the Discover America Partnership that's on the Chamber of Commerce website. Discover America Partnership. They got the hotel, hospitality, and travel industries on board. Now it's the manufacturing associations. It's about cramming as many people into America so they can profit from them. I think that when Mayor Bloomberg looks at his fellow Americans and fellow New Yorkers as an agent, we felt that we were looking at people we were there to serve and protect. He looks at the people around him as a turkey farmer would look at his flock. He sees people as a money generator, period. And that's why he wanted congestion pricing in New York. He creates the congestion by sanctuary policies and then has the chutzpah, as we say in Brooklyn, to say, well, if you want to drive into Midtown Manhattan, I want to charge you for that privilege of being stuck in traffic. How remarkable is that?
You think it's that elaborately well thought out, Maxie?
I don't know. I'd have to really think about that. Not living in New York, I can't really say.
Where are you from?
I was born in Florida, and I've lived the majority of my life there, but I've lived all over the world, really.
Sounds like a great background, great life.
Yep, I've definitely had a great life. But I do think that there's so much, I don't know if litigious is the right word, but just so much, when you go to New York, you're right, you feel just taxed out of existence. There's a tax on this, a tax on that. You jump in a cab, there's a new tax about this. They're always taxing you for something.
They're taxing you for something, regulating you for something else. You're in a situation where you can't even argue with them. They put in the electronic water meters in New York. We got hit with a $3,500 water bill for what should have been like a $300 water bill. And when we threatened to sue them, they said, good, we'll put a lien on your house and take your house. So we had to fork over $35. And normally it would have been not even $300 for that period of time. And we weren't the only ones. And who are you going to argue with? Some guy that comes out and says, this is what it is, this is what you owe us. write a check or else.
Do you think we've gotten away from what worked?
Oh, absolutely we have, and we've gotten away from government by the people. This is government by corporations, and I think it started, Armstrong, with the Supreme Court ruling that said that corporations could be constituents. Think about it. And then you have the Taxpayer United case. The idea that you can give unlimited amounts of money. As a federal agent, I couldn't take a cup of coffee or a can of soda pop. And these guys are taking with both hands and bragging. Could you imagine if I went to one of my bosses and said, hey, Walter, be proud of me. I'm the best fundraiser in the office? I'd be in jail, and rightfully so. These guys are getting money. Why do you think people give money to politicians? Let's cut to the basic. Why in the world would anybody give thousands of dollars to some politician?
Because they don't know anybody and they're desperate. That's what they're exploiting.
Or they're hoping. They're hoping that something's going to change.
By influence. Why would you give money to both parties? You got a guy running for mayor, and you give to both candidates on both sides of the aisle. Are you doing it ideologically, or are you doing it?
No, you're
real
covering
power
your
and
bases.
influence?
Yeah, you're covering your bases.
That's right. Is that really what the Founding Fathers had in mind?
No, but I don't think the Founding Fathers, and this may be whatever, I don't think the Founding Fathers had Social Security in mind, and I think it all starts with that. If you go back and you realize, and I'm only 46, but I remember when I got my first paycheck, and I think I was 18 or 19, it wasn't a big one, but I remember thinking, what is Social Security? Why do I don't want it. Can I not collect it? And I remember working in Europe and thanking the Lord that I didn't have to pay Social Security because I was working in another country. And when I came back, I said, hey, if I'm working at X job, can I opt out of Social Security? I don't want to collect it. I don't want it. And I was so blown away that they said no. And that's where it all starts for me. Maybe
I understand. I have a little different take on it, as you would imagine. But it goes beyond that.
Just hold there.
Roosevelt,
we're coming back. Don't go away. We're coming back. Maxie and Michael. We'll be back.
Armstrong Williams returns in a moment.
Say bye-bye burgers, pass on the pizza, forget the francs. Anytime is party time. Discover Golden Cross's authentic Jamaican-style patties. Beef, chicken, vegetables, soya, spinach, and shrimp. Feast on our great taste sensations. Jerk chicken, oxtail, sliced fish, and much more. Savor the taste of the Caribbean. Only at a Golden Cross near you. A family tradition since 1949. GoldenCrossBakery.com.
For more information on the Armstrong Williams Show, please visit our new website at www.rightsidewire.com. There you can find his syndicated column archive, view live streams, and get your favorite conservative pundits' views on the current issues affecting the American people. From building wealth to foreign policy, stay connected with Armstrong Williams and his colleagues at the all-new www.rightsidewire.com.
Does your school, team, church, or charity need a new fundraiser? Do you need to work out of your home or part-time? Are you a small business that can use an additional revenue stream? Then you need Yellow Llama. Do you need affordable web services or tools to enhance your existing business? Are you a graphic artist who wants to create a revenue stream with your art but not get ripped off? Then go to www.yellowllama.com.
Anderson Brothers Bank, a family-owned and operated establishment that blends traditional personal service, local market awareness, and advanced technology to meet the financial needs of its customers. Visit abbank.com or call 843-464-6271 to see how they can assist you with your banking needs. Anderson Brothers Bank, celebrating 75 years of community banking, the way it should be. Stability right in your backyard since 1933.
America must change course if we hope to survive and save the American dream for our children and grandchildren. How do we fix Social Security and Medicare? How do we cut government spending? How do we reform health care? How do we simplify the tax code? The Heritage Foundation has a bold plan that tackles these tough problems using common sense solutions that leave partisan politics on the sidelines. Find out how we can save the American dream at savingthedream.org, paid for by the Heritage Foundation.
Join the millions of Americans who pursue one of our country's finest traditions, from hunting to sport shooting. Since 1871, the NRA has grown as a service organization involved in all aspects of shooting sports and is a proud defender of the Bill of Rights. Join today to begin taking advantage of exclusive membership offers and discounts, including up to $25,000 in insurance coverage. Contact the NRA today. Call 1-800-672-3888 or visit nra.org.
Where heads of state, sports, entertainment, and political celebrities meet. You're listening to Armstrong Williams.
And welcome back. Maxie, what are the other important issues that you're aware of that are not getting the necessary coverage today?
Armstrong, that's a loaded question. I don't know. I'd have to think about it. But I think, what we've been talking about is really relevant with what's going on with the IRS and all these organizations. I think this immigration issue, and I didn't know much about the film that Dennis Lynch had done, but I looked it up on the break, and I think these are the issues. I think we're covering the main issues, but I think we just have to realize that we've got to follow the law and work within the law.
Michael?
That's what's so remarkable. And final thought about immigration, and we'll get off it. I know I can hear Armstrong wants to go in a different direction, and that's fine. But understand something. We have cities that are openly contemptuous of federal law, the immigration laws. It's the only body of law that a local government or state government can say, we will ignore those laws, and are encouraged by the federal government. And at their foundation, those laws are just designed to protect the lives and jobs of Americans. It's the balance to what the military does. They're supposed to keep our enemies from getting to our shores, and it's immigration that's supposed to make certain that they don't stay here if they do manage to get to the border. So this goes to the most significant challenge that we have, and one of the most significant sets of federal laws are the immigration laws, and you would never know it by what the politicians have done. So understand what's happening. Over profit motive, they are willing to sacrifice national security and the future of Americans and the country itself. That, to me, is astonishing in the fact that most Americans sit out to dance. Universities don't encourage free thinking any longer. They've become basically, as far as I'm concerned, military parade grounds where either you march lockstep with the ideology being taught on campus or you're ostracized. We started everything today by saying, I think. Universities discourage free thinking. It's about indoctrination. That's where I think education has wound up. Am I wrong on that one?
What can we do about it?
Well, we're doing it, but let me ask this question. Should we roll back the Patriot Act?
Parts of it disturb me. I mean, we really need to keep a handle on what's going on, but some of it is just so darn intrusive. And maybe the solution I would have, trying to invoke a bit of the wisdom of Solomon, is to say, look, you can keep the Patriot Act, but then you really need to make sure that the immigration laws are enforced properly so that people like the Tsarnaevs don't get to embed themselves in the United States. It's kind of emblematic of what George W. Bush did. He sent Border Patrol agents to secure the Iraqi border but refused to secure our own border. We're told that we're supposed to give up our guns, but then we encourage guns to go to Mexico through Fast and Furious, and we enable drug cartels to set up shop in hundreds of American cities across the country. There's got to be balance. You can have the Patriot Act, but then this is the obligation that the federal government has to meet, not by creating theater, but in the real world. And when Napolitano says the border is secure, the metric isn't how many arrests are being made. That's like taking attendance by asking people not present to raise their hand. They should be looking at the price of drugs in America. If the price remains flat, the borders are open because the supply of drugs continues to flow across the same borders. So we know that that's a farce. You shouldn't be able to have a Patriot Act on the one hand that's intrusive on Americans, and on the other hand, ignore the immigration laws that are supposed to keep the bad guys out. What do you think?
I mean, I think you've said it brilliantly. I don't think you could say it any better, and you've lived it. You've worked it. That's a rare thing. There are not very many people I know that can say they've done what you've done.
What do you think?
Thank you. No, I was there for 30 years. Go to my website. I'd love to stay in touch with
you.
I
will. I would love to do that.
What are your thoughts?
By the way, you have a great name. My daughter's name is Maxie.
Maxie.
So,
oh, thank you.
Maximizing every moment. What were your thoughts on the AP intrusion by the Justice Department?
Wow. National security is vital, but I'm very leery about tampering with the journalists. And by the way, there are so few real journalists out there today. It's not by coincidence that the First Amendment deals with journalists. Again, the Founding Fathers understood that without an informed electorate, you can't have a real democracy. I'm very leery about this business, just as we should all be. There has to be a certain amount of immunity given to genuine journalists so they can cover the stories. Not like WikiLeaks, where they're putting stuff out there that can damage national security, but the way they went about it, we need to be able to trust our own government, and I find it remarkable that Barack Obama promised us the most transparent government in history. Someone needs to get a big can of window cleaner, because this is anything but a transparent administration.
I agree with that.
But is any administration transparent?
No, but it bugs me that you would have the chutzpah to say you're going to do it, and then you're worse than probably anybody else. Look at this. It's one scandal after another at the Justice Department. Maybe the question should be, is there any justice to be found at the Justice Department? How's that for a question of the day?
Yeah, so scary.
But I think the underlying issue is that the government tries to be too many things to too many people. The government is just too big. It undermines its own purpose.
Big, but we have to understand what it's supposed to be doing. And that's why, when I talk about immigration, first and foremost, the president said it in that film, well, I'm here to protect the Americans. Well, how good a job are you doing of protecting Americans when we have gang members easily entering into the United States? And in fact, this president turned thousands of criminal aliens loose because of sequestration.
Yeah, I agree with all of that.
How consistent is that with his promise that my number one job is to protect the American people?
It's not.
Agenda is trumping national security and public safety. It's trumping the American dream for American citizens. And that's why Americans need to listen to programs like yours, Armstrong. You're one of the few people who has the guts, the spine to stand up and call it the way it is. I try to do the same thing on my own little radio show I do Friday nights on the Michael Cutler Hour. But how many mainstream programs are willing to talk about it?
Well, you have to.
Don't.
You
get pablum.
You kept mentioning Dennis Lynch's latest movie. Talk about that, because I think it's an important film.
Well, it is, and there's another one that you folks can see online, by the way, and it's Freedom Under Fire Part 2. And if you go to my website, you can see it. And that's a 40-minute film, and it's free, and it's the same kind of message. I was in both of Dennis's films. But the only thing that I would criticize, and I don't mean that as a criticism if you're listening, Dennis, too much emphasis on the border. Every state's a border state. If you have an international airport or a seaport, it's a border state. But he went down to the border and showed that it is chaos. This other film, Freedom Under Fire Part 2, they went down to the border, and they've actually lifted sections of the gate big enough that trucks could drive by, and they leave it open for months at a time. And what was so remarkable is here was Dennis speaking with Peter King, who had chaired the Homeland Security Committee in the House of Representatives, and I know Peter King, he's a good guy, and he said, how many times have you discussed these issues with Janet Napolitano? And his answer was, I never spoke to her. How in the world can the woman in charge of Homeland Security not have had conversations with the member of Congress who has oversight for her organization? That's why I've come to call DHS, the Department of Homeland Surrender. There's nothing secure about Homeland Security.
I know, because the government is too large.
No, you're wrong. That's forgive me. It's the government is purposefully inept to meet the needs of people that want the open borders. I did a piece for Social Contract. There's another one coming out shortly where I called it Immigration, the Modern Day Gold Rush. When you start to realize how many people are making billions and billions and billions of money off of illegal immigration and foreign workers coming with work visas, do you know that right now we are admitting over 150,000 foreign workers legally every month? That's more than the number of jobs we're creating, and that doesn't even begin to address the illegal aliens. The banks are moving their money. Over $100 billion a year gets wired out of the country. Guess what? The banks get a piece of that action. The immigration lawyers would have their legal fees paid for by comprehensive reform. The idea that you would give people identity documents without being able to verify who they are. The last time they tried this, I did a bunch of hearings about it. Senator Sessions liked what I said so much, he quoted me from the floor of the Senate. I said they should rename comprehensive immigration reform the Terrorist Assistance and Facilitation Act. They know this in Washington, but they are more concerned with getting campaign contributions, which I have come to think of as legalized bribery, than anything else. It's not too big, it's inept, and it's inept by design.
Well, but that's because it's too big. I got to say, I got to disagree. I feel that the government has too many commissions, too many
No, but
groups.
you see, if you wanted to make it work, I could make it work.
How?
I could make it work. They don't want it to work, and that's how we got into this mess.
You could
know,
make the
Napolitano said
existing...
we'd need 12 years to build a fence. We went to the moon in 9 years. 40 years
Would you
ago.
make the existing system work, or would you get rid of it? You'd get rid of a lot of it.
You can make the system work, but first of all, you have 7,000 ICE agents for the whole country, and half of them are doing customs work. New York City has 35,000 cops. You need enforcement. When you induce people to enter the country and say to them, well, don't break in, but if you get here, we'll give you citizenship, we'll give you education. This nonsense, we're going to put you on the back of the line for what? Citizenship? Most of these folks don't want to be citizens. They want to be able to work. They will work immediately.
I think we have a call.
How you doing?
Randy, go ahead.
Hey, how you guys doing? I was listening
Fine,
to
thanks for the
conversation-
call.
I was listening to the conversation for a long time, and the guy that's talking, what's your name, man? I keep forgetting your name. Michael. To me, if I was just tuned in like I just did, I hear you a couple of times on Armstrong, but right now you sound like a partisan hack.
No, I'm not. I'm a Democrat, by the way.
No, you're not. And you sound a little racist too. Like every time I hear you, just hear me out. Every time I hear you, you go hard on legal aliens because you were a border agent and all that. They are good cops. They are bad cops. They're good politicians. They're bad politicians. They could be good border cops and bad border cops. To me, you just seem like a partisan act. And you're saying you're a Democrat. You're destroying the Obama administration has done more for the border in the last maybe 30 years. More
What are you basing that on?
Well, you're not going to base it on much now because we're out of time. Thank you, Maxie. Thank you, Michael. Thank you, Randy.
On your rhetoric.
For more information on the Armstrong Williams Show, please visit our new website.